And I think we're recording. So this will be an annoying video. Jerky subjects like the difference between, what we can ascertain in some sort of hard, explicit manner, can be said as a truth with confidence. Kind of philosophy versus science. The difference between things that are a consequence of something's reality. Two things interact with each other. The difference between, say, an event and an object. So, objects have properties. The properties are definable and real, but some of those properties are a definition by interaction. The idea of being a predator. The predator, the word, the description, not only has to do with some physical aspects, but you actually have to be a predator. You actually have to go chomp up some prey to really fit the description. And is the action of being a predator real or less real than the properties of having the big teeth and the big claws and all that crap? So it's philosophy. It just doesn't belong. I wish it wasn't on. I wish things didn't get blended. I wish they didn't get blended on one channel and then blended on the other, and they always end up doing that. It's irritating. It's usually Holiday's fault. So I'm going to read one of his stupid comments on Linux just because I don't feel like making a Linux video just for this purpose. And it just illustrates that he's a dumbass. So anyway, I have no idea about Linux, so they might just shut up. But I might suggest a strategy, and it's a strategy that can't work in any universe. All of the multiverses, it doesn't work either. To work around the problem or get more informative info, question mark. Might I suggest the strategy of, yes, finding a fix or getting more information? Gee, I think I tried to do that. Amazing. Partition part of the drive to which the webcam is going to write. I don't think anybody on Earth can actually do that. I mean, without rewriting the webcam software, I don't know exactly how that's even possible. You can't partition a file in a partition. Can't be done, really, such that you don't risk your overall space. Well, and it's not the webcam specifically. It's the idea that these temp files could possibly work, but I think they're overlapping. So it thinks it's writing to one and it's removing the file in another, and then the file ends up being a non-file. No location, no identifier, no anything. So the index of the hard drive says there's a file, but it doesn't know where it is or who owns it, and so it just used up disk space. So it's more complicated than just being the webcam software. And then periodically format that partition. I don't know what formatting would do. That'd be absolutely useless. The whole point is just to delete the garbage in it. Also, drive cleaning software that writes zeros and random. Why would that be at all interesting? Deleting it's all just about the file being referenced, in the what do you call that? The hard drive's whatever, the index file, and that's just the problem. It's space. And as far as the hard drive is concerned, it's used space, even though it's never going to be accessible from any location ever. So anyway, just a dumb answer, so fuck you, stupid fuck. So anyway, I'm pissed because he's an asshole. And he keeps overtly being one, and you're just like, no, there's no excuse for this crap. So just delete this useless tripe. Alright, as my dad always said, either a big bang or exit in a whimper. Well, it's just whatever. Frankly, not very interesting. Alright, so this anonymous coward, what Arky or something, I don't know, gives himself, thumbs up his own bullshit comments. An anonymous coward can't, no content, no accountability account. Well, pay attention to me. No, fuck you. Why is there no conversation between dissidents? Because the dissidents are like the Dateless Nerds Club. And what are you, the Anonymous Cowards Club? I mean, you're so dickless. You're so much worse than a nerd. At least the nerds are showing their face and saying shit overtly and accountably. You're a coward, a despicable little dirty foul-mouthed piece of crap, pointing your fingers at other people, hiding behind your rock. You coward. Everyone thinks they are the undiscovered gem who doesn't belong with the other losers. And that's exactly what every person who ever won a Nobel Prize was at first. Einstein was a patent clerk, remember? I mean, this is just such a non-argument. The very field of outsiders is always where the insiders come from. Shit for brain, retard, idiot, moron. Oh, crap. Alright, your theory has inherent contradiction. Bullshit lie. Fuck you. No proof of that. And you won't show me a single evidence of a single experiment that demonstrates the contradiction. On the one hand, you say photons do not inherit. Why would they inherit something? I've said overtly, photons do two things. Okay? They have whatever mass they have, whatever blah blah blah, and they move the speed of light in a straight line. I guess that's two things. Just move the speed of light and they go in a straight line. They don't inherit anything. The motion of the emitter. Yeah, they don't inherit a motion. They can't do anything else. They go one speed. You drop them anywhere in the universe and they'll go one speed, the speed of light. It doesn't matter if I throw them into the universe. It doesn't matter whether I throw them backwards in the universe. It doesn't matter how I drop them into the universe. They always just do the one fucking thing, idiot. That once released, photons goes its own way, presumably in some absolute frame of reference. The absolute frame of reference obviously wouldn't be called the absolute frame of reference because it doesn't need it to be referenced because it's the only reality. Photons go the same speed anywhere they are. That's what Einstein said, you idiots. You don't even understand what Einstein said. Einstein basically said exactly what I just said there. You can't add or subtract momentum from a photon. It always goes the speed of light. It doesn't care about your fucking frames. However, the bulk of your theory relies on the photons bouncing back and forth zillions of times. Yes, well, guess what? The small universe is like 10 to the minus 39 times smaller than this universe, right? I mean, the one we live in, size-wise. So, if you multiply the speed of light times 10 to the 39th, you'll get, a huge, preposterously, insanely gigantic number. And that's the speed of light in the small frame. So, yes, technically, the stuff bouncing back and forth between an electron does it more than a Googleplex kind of thing, amount of times in this 1 second. Alright, trapped between two electrons. How do these bouncing photons keep up with the electrons as the atom moves through space? How do they keep up? They're what makes the atom move through space, retard, as I've pointed out. The atom can't move. The atom's a school of fish. Without the fish, the atom doesn't go anywhere. So the orientation of the force bits is exactly why the thing moves, because it has more force bits going one direction than it has going another direction in terms of its momentum. The traps are spinning this way, you could say, processing one way more than they're processing the other way. Dumbass. On each bounce back, the photon will hit the electron further back. It doesn't hit it back. The electron absorbs the energy and holds it for a little while and moves. So the photon hits. Oh, maybe I'll draw some of this. I mean, it's what I tried to... this is a simpler way of understanding the mechanics. It's not to understand that anything bounces or anything, are is reflected, and understand that it's just about how much time it spends stuck to something. So if you had an electron, I don't know if I need to be way over there, and I hit it with something, so something's little photony stuff is moving. The way to visualize it is what's going to happen is that little bit is essentially just going to stick to it. Alright, now this bit's moving the speed of light, so it's traveling c. Now this thing, let's say, was stationary, it wasn't going at all. But let's say it's made of, we'll just use a number of 10 just to make it simple. So it's made of 10 bits. So then you would just multiply, okay, you would just divide the speed of light into 10, and you'd find out, just speed of light into 10, And that would tell you how fast this thing's going to go. And then there'll be a point, okay, where this thing is interacting in stuff that's hitting it from all directions. And like I said, there's points where there's going to be a transfer where the thing won't stick, but what it will do is allow for there to be an exchange. So one of these little things comes in this way of the wrong color, you know, and what it will do, it will cause an interaction that causes this thing to leave. And instead, one will stick over here. Well, no, that won't happen. No, this one will leave. It'll essentially hit, and that hit will be, this thing will leave, yeah, it'll leave in this direction because this thing is just going to go this way, and the only thing that'll happen is the colors are going to be changed. So this will now be red, and this was going to be black, that kind of thing. But anyway, it's just all that happens in transfers is how long the energy is inside of the thing. So the space shuttle flies off, right? I mean, you have a you know, some sort of little rockety thing, and you know, it has this big huge flame, so it's throwing a bunch of these things that away, and in doing that, creating that imbalance, it can only create that imbalance by shooting a bunch of in the opposite direction, and the ones it shoots in the opposite direction are sticking essentially to the shuttle. So the shuttle is getting covered by a bunch of little, it's acquired a bunch of stuff moving that way. And it's not until it is some other force, you know, some other bunch of stuff exchanges, in the sense that stuff moving this way sticks and causes this stuff to leave. So it's just like the electron can only hold so much stuff. You could look at it as it can only hold so many of these little things stuck to it. And so if a new one comes in, an old one has to be knocked out. And it's just about which old one gets knocked out, essentially. But that's what all this is about. So it's a real absorption of momentum. So the electron moves in a direction, but electrons don't have the capacity to maintain velocity because they are getting constantly bombarded. And as I've pointed out, let's say they had 3 extra bits going this way. So 3 extra things were stuck to it going this way. The universe is going to see that difference. It has 3 going this way, and it only has 1 going the other way, the opposite direction. Well, the odds are when it makes exchanges, it's more likely to hit one of these 3 than the 1, as a law of probability. So eventually its speed will be neutralized. And as it's neutralized, it's actually giving back what it absorbed. So that's the reflection. So we're really just talking about how fast, when something reflects, it just means that its absorption was very quick. The electron moved in this direction, then the electron was acted on by the external forces from the other electrons or from just the universe itself. It decelerated, and in decelerating it gave back the little ball. So the little ball hits it, moves it for a while, and then it gives it back. Now if you hit something with a bunch of these little balls, well then it'll have a lot to get rid of. It'll take longer for it to decelerate. I mean, it'll go further before it'll decelerate. And that's the only difference. But it's just any time a piece of matter is moving, it's moving because it's absorbed real force. It's absorbed photons that are moving the speed of light. It has fish in it. You're a school, you can't do anything except what the fish allow you to do. They're the thing making the school of fish move. The fish are the thing with the energy. I mean, it really, I mean, I started with that metaphor 7 years ago and it still holds. That's the mechanism. And there's no contradictions in it. Anyway, all right, Howard, the bulk of your theory relies on these photons bouncing back. Yes, we did that. How do these bouncing photons keep up with the electrons as the atom moves through space? So again, they don't keep up. They're the thing making the electron move. If the electron's moving, it's moving because it's absorbed these little bits. And again, there's no evidence that electrons have any sustainable momentum. As I've pointed out, there's no experiments demonstrating that we can shoot electrons any great distance in free space. On each bounce back, the photon will hit the electron further back. On each bounce back, the photon will hit the electron further back. No, the photon can't reflect. If it moves the electron, the photon will not reflect. It's absorbed for the period of time it's absorbed the force. So the photon can't make the electron move one way and the photon moves another way at the same time. That can't happen. Both things can't move. Just like in kinetic balls, both the balls, if I move one ball into another one, both of them don't move. I mean, the one doesn't bounce all the way back and the other one doesn't fly all the way in one direction. No, they have to exchange the momentum, or it has to essentially attach the momentum to the thing and then both of them move. Like with dropping two balls at once and then two of them fly off attached to each other. The energy is attached to the electron. It's in the electron. It's part of the electron until the electron gives it back. Alright. On each bounce back, the photon will hit the electron further back and eventually fall off the edge. Fall off the edge of what? So that doesn't even make any sense. What the fuck does that mean? Even if you say that the bounce is absorbed, so on each bounce back, the photon will hit the no. The point is that it if it hits in a quick enough succession, it's like, oh, I mean, you know, these people just can't pay attention to anything, and it's so vacuous. The video is so, I mean, it's one of the best videos I've made. This energy video. I mean, it's a great video. Explains a hell of a lot. As I pointed out, it doesn't have time to bounce back. That's the whole point of why that's the whole point of the photoelectric effect and the idea of the quantization of the energy inside of matter. So this is the whole rule, is that if this frequency is close enough, then when you hit the electron doesn't decelerate. So you're hitting it quick enough where it doesn't decelerate because you're hitting it again, and then you hit it again, and you hit it again. So it never decelerates in this process. It's accelerating through this process. It's acquired one, now it has two, then it has three, and then it has four bits of energy moving this way, and has the momentum representing that. And then, when it stops, when this sequence of pressure stops, that's when the electron starts moving, starts decelerating, and when it's decelerating, moving the opposite direction, then it'll start giving back all this energy. I mean, it's deceleration plus the, like I said, the force from the other electrons are going to be a lot more than just deceleration. But the point is, it'll just give back through the process of decelerating exactly what it took in. Just like when they talk about moving charges creating electricity, it's not the movement of the charge, is really just the compression of the atom. So what you're doing is, when you hit it with a magnetic field, you're hitting it with little bits. The little bit sticks to the electron moves in towards the nucleus of the atom, alright, and then that pressure of it being in the wrong location, being against the flow, it will bounce back to its original position, and as it does that, that's going to be the counter force that we call EMF. That's the counter force. You're just getting back what you pushed in. You pushed it in, it pushed back, and threw it back at you. It's just the reflection of the magnetism that you threw at it. This is so uneven. Well, anyway. Yeah, so that's enough of that. So let's see. Alright. Even if you say that the bounces are absorption, yeah, duh, and remission, yes, exactly what I did say. Even if I say it, no, that's exactly what I did say. The emission will occur further and further to the back of the electron. No, it won't. So, fuck you. Anonymous coward. Fuck off. I'm just not going to... Your theory has inherent contradiction. You're not proving that with an experiment that shows an inconsistency with my theory, and that shows any inconsistency. You're not explaining how there's an experiment somewhere that demonstrates that this can't be true. You have none. And all you have is a theory, as pointed out in the hour-long video. You're the one who believes in dualities. You believe in bent nothing. You believe in virtual photon as an explanation of magnetism. You have absolutely nothing. You have a so fetal description of reality. It doesn't contain any meaningful elements. It has no elemental principles whatsoever. You can't draw a photon that doesn't look like a pile of mush, a bunch of waving. How does it do any of this snaky crap? How does your field allow for any of that? You don't have an explanation of anything. You fucking vacant piece of shit. You coward. You fucking anonymous coward. So fuck you. Alright, now on to Holiday. Some more fuck youing. Alright, so we'll start here. I haven't listened to the rest of it. I got here and I said, yes, there you go, fat fuck.
Morality subscript amendum equals ethics plus religious connotation.
Religious connotations. Where? I have a website called Do Not God. There's not a single religious component to my philosophy. You know what he's calling religion? Because I understand the difference between torture and pleasure. Because I say that difference is real, he calls that a fucking religion. That's how big a piece of fat scum this fucking nihilist piece of shit is. He doesn't think there's any real difference between torture and pleasure. He doesn't think that has any real value meaning. There's no reason to notice. There's no reason to talk about it. It absolutely doesn't matter how many fucking 10-year-old girls you burn to death under an oil truck. You could do it all day long and this guy would say nothing happened. You can put people in concentration camps and he'll say nothing happened. It doesn't mean anything. It's not a relevant fact. It's less relevant than how heavy is the electron. It's more important to know how heavy an electron is than to take any notice of fucking torture on planet Earth. It has no fucking possibility that has any fact value. There's no fact value in the difference between torture and pleasure. That's how deeply nihilistic and moronic this fucktard is. And then he'll talk about non-contradiction. 2 videos ago or something, he said some stupid little line like, "Oh, I can't stand to watch animals tortured." That's contradiction, jackass. You can't sit there and do this philosophy of nihilist cunt shit, calling it a religion to think that it matters whether things are tortured, and then play a game like somehow you don't know humans are just as sentient as a dog. You can't figure that out, you fucking fat retard. His videos, the last 4 videos have been suck. I mean, just wishy-washy bullshit. So, yeah, I was saying, he's just going to go back to his nihilist rubbish about how there's no other truth than it's a little bit. There, that's it. There's little bits and locations and what they do and how they interact and what that means as an emergent phenomenon as our brain is actually creating this consciousness thing, this illusion, okay, of something that can be tortured. But it's just as real as when Einstein said about time being an illusion. It's one hell of an illusion. Get real, fucktard. But yeah, I'll play that. I mean, how the fuck? Religious connotation. There's no religious connotation in a single fucking philosophical premise I advocate for. It is just an absolute motherfucking lie. There is no dogma taken from nowhere. If I'm saying something, then I'm saying it because I've either personally experienced it and seen it a million fucking times, like pain and pleasure. I've experienced them. You can't make an argument to me that it doesn't matter whether I feel good or I feel shitty. It's just too retarded. I mean, there's not a sillier philosophy that somebody. I mean, rope theory can make more sense to me than some idiot coming up to me and saying, "Gary, it really doesn't matter if I hack your leg off right now or give you a blowjob. It just doesn't matter." How can somebody be this fucking stupid? Let me go back a little further. Sure, we get the whole fucking thing, the whole big pile of fucking shit.
Religious, yeah? And so they're carrying a word, and I think this is the case in Mendham's case. Morality subscript amendum equals ethics plus religious connotations. Perhaps you should hate to misrepresent.
Oh, I'd hate to misrepresent. So I mean, just amazing, right? Just amazing, 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 amazing. I hate to misrepresent. I mean, I know you have a site called Do Not God. I know that you've been on the internet for 10 years talking about how religion is the most vile, putrid piece of shit in the universe. And clearly, this idiot could know that I would find it insanely offensive to be called religious. And he just overtly does it. Fuck you, fathead. Pedophile.
So I almost verged on being a hard Platonist, where people say, mathematical objects exist. Well, they don't exist.
So another stupid statement, actually. Mathematical objects. There's no such thing as two-ness as an object. Okay, an object can't be two-ness. But obviously, objects can manifest as a property two-ness or four-ness or 10-ness or 100-ness. Okay, they can have an intensity. And they can quite obviously also have a property like plus and minus. They can have charge properties that make them function in opposite directions and opposite ways. And that's real. It's not unreal. So the idea of the negative number is not an unreal concept, because it's just representing the idea that it's the reciprocal of this. These two things are reciprocals of each other. I mean, it's just so stupid to say there's nothing about math that is connected to anything other than abstractions. Of course, there are real properties that can be converted into mathematical statements that are perfectly rational. Two-ness, four-ness, six-ness. Heaviness versus lightness. Those are real properties, not unreal ones, and they have real effects on behaviors. And the behaviors are, in fact, real things. So this idiot doesn't think behavior, okay, the interactions have any meaning. He doesn't think there's any meaning in interaction. It's not a real thing. Fucking idiot.
In the concrete sense, who would claim otherwise? You have to be pretty absurd to say so.
No, you wouldn't at all. You just have to have enough vocabulary to realize, oh, it's a concept, and the concept is a property. So when things are in collections, see, the individual thing can have properties, blue, and when you put them together, they can have properties, two-ness. Dumbass.
They possess all the ability to make truth statements about them. These abstract existences, these mathematical truths.
Again, they're not abstract at all. They're very real. They're describable facts. You will not be put in truth prism. Okay, if I show you this and you say 2, you won't go to liar jail for that.
Under the agreement that there can be truth, and that the agreement...
Yes, we've already agreed. The simple contradicting yourself is stupid. Yeah, duality is moronic. Okay, and what else do you have to have? I mean, it's almost the only rule you have to follow, and this game is really pretty easy. And yes, the idea that there's things, they're real. Gremlins aren't real. Santa Claus isn't real. Easter Rabbit isn't real. But pen is real. It's made out of matter, and we know this is kind of, as the universe goes, this is as real as we can understand. It's matter.
No, the be truth is that if I start talking about an apple, or even briefer, something that stands for an idea and concept A, that throughout that discussion, A continues to mean what we started off. I can, at the end of the discussion, be talking about B, and so.
Yeah, that was just gibberish. But that's the whole problem. You don't understand that the symbols are just as real. Representations, okay? The Nazi swastika is as real a thing in itself. It has its own properties, its own reality. And it also has this connection through behavior to and history to all this other stuff. then those connections are real. They're not fake. There was real events that created real lines of connection, real interactions that aren't fake. It is a real history. And that is part of what it is as a thing. It's not just a symbol. It's not just a bunch of black ink on a red background. It's a little more, it's more than that, because it has a history and of events. It's an eventer. It has interaction.
Added to the informational content of what A is and is supposed to be standing for abstractly, that it's no something else. This would be the first, reason can't get off the ground, self-evidently, we would say, yeah, if this can't be true. This would be the law of identity. And like I referred to...
Again, mushy word. So again, we don't need the law of identity, okay? Because obviously things can have more than one purpose and have many different kinds of interactions. You can have interactions with fucking fatheads, or you can have interactions with hot chicks. You can have lots of different kinds of events happen in your life, and you can be known to be more than just one thing. I can be in Mendham, and I can be DraftScience. I can play more than one role here on Earth. So this idea of the identity is, the identity is the whole package, and that's what the idea is to represent things in the absolute frame, the complete frame. Now, we'd all love to be able to have complete information, a dossier on everything, and be able to understand it completely. I'd like to be able to understand why you're a nihilist retard. I mean, who put their finger in your ass the wrong way and that fucked your brain, okay? Their finger was so fucking long and shoved a bunch of shit into your fucking brain. I mean, I'd love to know why you're a fucking idiot. There is a truth. There is a reason. Yeah, but we don't have access to all that information. But it has nothing to this identity crap is just another way of saying non-contradiction. Don't lie about what something is. Don't lie about its history. Don't pervert it, because that's a fake. That's now an abstraction. Lies are abstractions.
That notion that having said A stands for a truth statement, and that truth statement is, in this case, by definition, we say so, it is true, that we're never allowed to flip-flop and say, actually, it's false as well, in simultaneity, both true and false. Right?
Yeah, it's true. It matters to you that your dog is tortured, and you don't think that's a rational statement. You don't think that's a manifestation of you doing reasoning to figure out whether it's a good or bad thing. And just because you don't care much for humans, you think it's okay to torture them. They don't matter. You're a fucking retard. I have absolutely contempt for human beings, but I don't think I have any philosophical way to make it not mean anything that they're having a bad day. I still have some angst and concern, even though I despise them, because I know they're feeling creatures, and I know that suffering is always a bad thing.
No. All systems of logic, all reason is perverted.
There's no system of logic, there's facts. And you add the facts up. Now, I've experienced life. I'm clearly aware of the huge difference between being tortured and being pleasured. And so it's a hard, reliable, dependable fact in every bit of my life experience. Every single event in my life experience teaches me that it matters. That there is a discernible, understandable, seeable, feelable difference.
Pervaded by those two truths, the law of identity and the law of non-contradiction. Essentially it's the same, but more technically.
Yeah, see, so you can see the point. So we don't need all these fucking laws. We just say it's idiotic to say something is two things at the same time. Yes, it's idiotic. Two conflicting things. It either is heavier or it is lighter. It either is left or it is right. There isn't any of this fucking contradiction crap.
Ethically involved is called the law of non-excluded middle. Something like that. But best to remember two, just the two.
Best to remember the one, and then you won't be a fat hypocrite like you, talking about 1 minute about how it disturbs me when animals are tortured. But I don't think torture means anything.
Defeat many an argument.
I mean, it would be so nice. I can't tell you how much I would enjoy life if I could believe it doesn't matter if things are tortured. I mean, yes, that just makes it so much fun. Because there's no way to lose. It's like playing a video game. I can't possibly lose. No skin gets torn off. No burns. No scars. No bleeding out. No suffocating. Nothing unpleasant at all. I just get to have little adventures and it's all for free. Well, that's not the universe we live in, you fucking piece of shit. You just copying the fuck out and then trying to pretend you're doing it in some sort of with any kind of logical integrity. There's absolutely no facts that point to your nihilist bullshit being the truth. That experience isn't just as real. That the interactions that create experience, the arrangement of neural electricity, isn't just as real. That arrangement, that organization, as the little bits themselves. The organization is just as real. The blueness of this pen is just as real as the hardness of the pen. In terms of it being a property it manifests.
I think it was, because most people won't subject themselves to such pedantry. And it was with a girl who had spiritual inclination, and I revealed to her, before we started talking, I insisted that she accept the thing.
You revealed to her that he has an inverted penis.
And the truth of a thing cannot be and not be.
And she laughed her ass off and said, "Oh, thank you. That was the best sex I ever had. That was just so funny."
Same time, and I pulled this out of her argument where she went, "Oh yeah."
Yeah, right. You pulled something.
That's really clever. Because her argument inferred that.
Says the the fucking fat pontificating turd.
Right, so, well, I'll not tell you. Oh, right, I guess it's interesting then, related to my earlier video, about properties. Do properties exist, or are they?
Duh. I mean, why would anybody even consider this a question that matters? I mean, obviously, it's quite obvious that this battery isn't a Lamborghini. That the properties are different. That the formation is different. The arrangement of these soldiers is very different than the arrangement of the Lamborghini soldiers. Very different. Duh.
An abstract idea, I think. Yeah.
So again, just idiotic. So to defend his annihilation of the obvious difference between a nail in your eye and a cupcake, he is now going to pretend there isn't a plain difference between an electron and a proton, when there is a plain difference. A plain, real, factual, describable difference.
Action. Yeah. The word actually, what we label as a property, is a behavior, always.
Bullshit. So again, just I pointed out with the predator argument, the predator is the claws, the teeth, the powerful jaws, the vision, the strength to move fast, doing all. They're real properties. It's just bullshit. He doesn't ever have to kill something to still be understood to be a predator. So again, just horse shit. But it wouldn't matter anyway. Even if somehow you could possibly make the properties, the teeth, the claws, the actual physical difference there likely is between an electron and proton. There's actually physical difference between the two things. Even if you took those away, the behavior would still be real. So the fact that they behave completely differently in the same circumstance would still be a discernible fact. It would be a real described thing. It would just be bullshit to say it doesn't have any meaning or relevance. It doesn't have, there's no significance to it. It has no importance. It's the only thing that matters is like how round it is or something. We just don't have to pay any mind to any other fact. when they're all facts. They're all describable facts, like two-ness and four-ness.
In the concrete sense, right? Abstractly, things have properties because we say they do. That's the beauty.
Yeah, no, it has nothing to do with what we say, so it's more crap. I mean, it's just a fact that they're going to interact in a different way. It's a fact. Not an unfact, not a nothing. It's a something. It's a something about them. It's a recognizable something that they're different.
With mathematics and abstractions, is I can set up a system and it has the properties I say it has. It has the behaviors I say it has. And given that system I set up, it is either...
So obviously nobody's trying to do it that way, where they're trying to describe reality. They're trying to fit a description to what is actually happening and have a model that matches. So again, it has nothing to do with what we say. We don't get to say it didn't happen. I can't undo what happened yesterday by saying it didn't happen. That's just horseshit. It happened. It's real. I can either say something that's accurate or I can say something that's inaccurate. That's all there is here. I can describe it accurately or inaccurately, but I can't undo anything. I can't make anything disappear.
So this is either interesting, i.e. one way of looking at this is to say it generates questions and puzzles, proofs of theorems and stuff, and those are questions of other properties of it. I started off just giving it the basic building block properties, and I found a whole realm of implications from it. So,
yeah, your realm of implications is nothing matters. You're just going to turn everything into it's just little bits moving around, and therefore it can't mean anything because little bits don't feel. Because the little bits don't feel, nothing else does. The organization of them doesn't mean anything. It doesn't have new properties. It doesn't have new capacities. So organizing something, like this battery can only do a little bit of voltage. The Lamborghini can do lots more stuff, but it's just made of the same bullshit. So how come the Lamborghini can do so many more things than this fucking battery can do? But he's just saying they're not real things.
In number systems, I meant to create the real numbers. I meant to create the natural numbers, the rational numbers and such. A property of them is commutativity, that A plus B is equal to B plus A, or associativity, where as far as multiplication is concerned, it doesn't matter.
Well, see, it does matter. Pouring the water into the pitcher, okay, requires you to tilt the pitcher, so you have to do things in the right order. So A is tilt the pitcher, B is the water pours out of the pitcher. Obviously, you can't do pour the water out of the pitcher and then tilt the pitcher. So obviously that's the only time that breaks down, is when there's things that are time dependent and they have to be in the right order. So if you break the necessary order, okay, if you die before you're born, well, that won't fucking work.
Bracket A times B times C. You could do the A times B first, or you could do the B times C first. Yeah? That's associative. And these properties generate features in the real numbers which are really useful and map to real life.
Says you, in my opinion, yeah, just says you. All that abstract crap doesn't define anything useful, in my opinion.
Truth statements here are true about pebbles. When millennia ago, the Egyptians counted the cattle from one field to another by counting pebbles in their pockets. Yeah? These were truths. And so we invent other systems.
Again, there's nothing abstract about that. That's very coherent. One pebble equals one cow. There's nothing abstract about that.
So we say, we try to invent them with those same properties because we realize they're useful and they generate other thoughts and questions. And this is a perspective on mathematics.
Yeah, well, it's just a pile of mush, in my opinion. The only rational perspective on mathematics is just to recognize that it's a very, very, very narrow kind of formalization. It's just taking something and stripping it of so much of its form. It's just elevating the contrast of an image. So you just really have the lights and the darks. So mathematics is just formalizing the essence of something, the very minimum of it. okay, and putting it in a little statement that says this is related to this. How tall he is related to how heavy he is, and that's, you know, inversely related to how big his shoes are, and this. It's just making a relationship between statistical facts of the thing, the essence of it. What's the essence of it? That's all it's in the formula.
But you clear up a lot, being strict in your mind about what exactly you mean by what it is to exist. So,
yeah, what you mean by that. There's no point in even having an idiotic conversation in the sense of using the word mean when you don't think there's any meaning to the conscious experience. So he's not even counting that as part of this word meaning. Obviously it couldn't mean anything to exist if there wasn't consciousness in the universe. Existence couldn't possibly have any meaning because there wouldn't be any value at stake. All outcomes, any outcome, any event, nothing could matter because there would be the welfare of there would be no joy or no sadness to be as a consequence. Without joy and sadness as a consequence, there's nothing to see here. There's no event of relevant. There's just absolutely no reason to give a shit whether it's 2 or 4. The reason why there's a reason to give a shit whether it's 2 or 4 is whether 4 is more dangerous than 2.
I'll be back. 2 seconds. It's a good one.
Fuck. Get a pause button. I can't zoom ahead.
My niece recently turned 18 years old, and I wondered whether holograms exist on video. You see, now this teddy bear, I can see it somewhat existing. Clearly, the TV is of different depth, doesn't give the depth idea. But to me, and I think you'll see the image changing. The degree to which it persuades you there's depth there on this thin card, of which prohibits depth, of course, or at least prohibits the
we don't perceive depth in any real way anyway. When we see it in the real world, we're not seeing depth in the real way. We're doing by cheating, by having 2 eyes that are taking 2 flat images and fucking with them, comparing them, and creating the illusion of it. So our perception is just as, it doesn't matter whether you create the illusion in a thin card, because in the 3-dimensional world, we're not actually seeing depth. We have no real depth perception. It's all synthesized. It's all software based. There's no physical depth perception. Our eyes don't do it. Our brain manufactures the perception of depth. Our eyes can't. The photons don't have any depth information in them. We have to make it by having 2 eyes and comparing the difference between 2 images.
Okay, so when I look at this with my eyes, I perceive depth. Does the teddy bear exist with depth? Okay, that's a good question for you.
No, we obviously know it doesn't, and it's just tricking our eyes. It's tricking the mechanism that our brain, the software our brain is using, is you can trick it. It's not that sophisticated. So you can trick it. Yes, the 3-dimensional world has 3 dimensions, and we see it in 3 dimensions. We have an illusion of 3 dimensions. Our brain creates for us. But it's manufactured completely incidental to real depth. We're just taking advantage of the fact that in a world that has real depth, there are certain facts, and you can fuck with those facts by having binocular vision. That's all this is. This isn't a philosophical question. This isn't some if a tree falls in the forest, does anybody hear it? Blah, 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 blah.
But no, it doesn't. Does the teddy bear exist as a 3D object? No, it doesn't. My mind perceives it as such, but there's a concrete truth. Yeah? So if that's what you mean, does it concretely have an extra XY coordinate? Then no, it doesn't. But if you want to say does my mind model it as having that extra XY depth? Yes, it does. But that...
Yeah, so what does this have to do with anything? I mean, this is just a very complex way of saying I'm right and you're wrong. What does this mean? So what? This is totally irrelevant. As stated, you either accurately describe reality or inaccurately describe it. And I think nobody could be more inaccurate in their description of reality if they say it doesn't have, it's insignificant, it's not relevant, it's not a fact we should be aware of, that there is any kind of difference between torture and pleasure. There isn't any meaningful difference between those things. Any idiot who says that, I mean, they should just be tortured, frankly, as soon as possible and as much as possible. I mean, to mock torture is to commit the greatest offense a human can create, in my opinion.
Property of mind, an existence of mind, not an existence of the teddy bear. The teddy bear is located here. So the subject of existence, that's an illusion.
So it's more crap. The subjective, no, it's a real event. The consciousness is a real event in the real universe. It's not made of nothing. It's made of 100 billion neurons. It's a really complex machine. And to say it's not doing anything with those 100 billion neurons that means anything, or we should pay any attention to, is just an idiotic statement. It's idiotic.
Of its existence depends on what we mean by exactly what exists. If we're talking about whether the teddy bear strictly has extra dimensions in space beyond the 2D, then no, it doesn't. If we're talking about not strictly the teddy bear...
Again, these are fact things. Just as you just pointed out, we can understand the difference between a two-dimensional illusion and three-dimensional space. Now, our eyes are representing these three dimensions accurately in the sense that the software is making a very good simulation. In the 2D example, it's not making a very good approximation. It's being tricked. It's being fooled. It's not being fooled by this three-dimensional reality because we can see that our hand reaches into the world and grabs the things in the right places. So it's obviously a very good bit of software. It's obviously coming up with the right answer. Yes, it's fooled by the teddy bear, the flat two-dimensional thing. It's fooled. That's all. So we can make true statements about the difference between an illusion, something that's not what it appears to be, and something that is. But how does that defend your idiotic nihilism, your silly notion that somehow you can discount the fact that I'm conscious? You can make it disappear as if it's not an event. It's a fucking event. It is fucking goddamn happening, and the consequences of it are obvious to anything that feels.
But consequences of our interactions, then there is a perception, an effect upon my brain between the light, the information. It's quite a, Leonard Susskind tells us it's quite an interesting informational subject. The nature.
So some more crap. So you're a Susskind fan. So he keeps pretending he's not a devotee of this crap, but he keeps talking about it like it's interesting and fascinating to talk absolute babble about holographic singularities. What a pile of shit.
Holograms. But this exists. Now we're talking about something in the mind. To what degree does the teddy bear exist in my mind? Well, in my mind,
again, an easy analysis. I mean, obviously, you can only understand it from what you associate it with. So you can recognize teddy bear. You can recognize the moving image has something to do with 3 dimensions. You know, the shape changes, and you can recognize that your brain is being fooled by an illusion on a card. Light refraction. And that's all. So you can recognize all the facts. You can glean all the facts. The significance doesn't have to be anything outside the realm of fact. Now, clearly, you can have emotional experiences where, a teddy bear did stick his finger too far up your ass when you were a kid, and now you have a fucking problem with teddy bears. But that's also going to be real because that's based on real experience. And the real experience becomes part of your properties. It's part of who you are. It's part of how you, Maserati. Every Maserati, although it's all called the Maserati, some of them suck, some of them are great. It's just a fact. They're different, even though they're the same.
there's a neural modelling of the perceptions of the outside world. That model is a 3D model.
Says you. So I don't think there's any reason to think our brain actually models in 3 dimensions very well. So I think I think they're just 2D pictures in our brain too. I don't think we 3D interact with our conscious representations of past experiences. I don't think they're very... I think they're almost mathematical. They're vectors, and they're... what do you call those pictures? Damn it. The ones that are just made out of mathematical curves. And that's all they are in our brain. They're just mathematical curves. Our memories are just, in a sense, the formalization of an experience. It's gleaned the little bits that are important and put them into the formula and said, this is the formula for Thursday, November 2nd, 1974. This is the mathematical representation. That's what's in my brain. It's not a 3-dimensional model.
Is not the teddy bear. Yeah, the map is not the territory. Yeah? In this case, the teddy bear, the picture of the...
Yeah, again, who would claim the map is the territory? But the point is the map can have integrity as a representation of the territory. And if the map is a relief map, it can show the significance of events, and it can show the significance of experience, and it can have much more detail in it. So you can have a map that acknowledges the reality, or you can have a nihilist map which just has a bunch of ziggly lines and just says, there, I'm done. I've represented reality, when you left most of reality out of reality. Your representation is false because it is so because it's left so much of the truth missing. Your map poorly represents the reality.
In this case, because it's a moving picture, the information that could be said to constitute on the card is modelled in my mind as a 3D bird with full depth. But how does my map, in what sense is that an existing paper? Is just, it isn't. There isn't a little teddy bear in my mind. There are just neurons. So I find I experience the existence of the teddy bear in my mind because of neural connections. There is
yeah, whatever. It's just software, right? But it's software makes all the difference. It's still an event. The software is an event. It's real. What it produces in terms of this conscious experience is real. It's really happening. You're really conscious. I'm really conscious. It's real, retard.
Form in connections in relation to receptors in the retina of the eye, which trigger the neural connections, and those neural connections at other points extend and link to other places which have concept of colour.
Yes, right. And all we're arguing about is when we attempt to discuss reality, describe it. That's what you're doing here. You're taking the model your brain has constructed and you're saying, this is my model. Now let's compare it to some other models. And what I'm saying is, if anybody looks at your map, okay, they'll say it's in crayon and drawn by a retard, because it leaves everything out that matters. Okay, all it has is there's stuff at locations. Doesn't have any movement, doesn't have any history. Billions of years of history are ignored. Evolution is ignored. The creation of complex organisms is ignored. All the stuff that really matters, that's significant in the sense that it leads to this value stuff, because you don't have value without these sentient creatures roaming around somewhere. All that's left out. Your map is fetal. It's so fucking immature.
Of teddy bear, recognition of it being a teddy bear, concept of the head, concept of, and these things have developed over time as themselves are in a sense, graph theoretic.
And again, let's understand that we sit here and mature through our life making these comparisons. And just like a wolf, his brain has to accurately map the world or he'll run into trees. He won't be able to catch the rabbit because he'll keep banging into trees if he doesn't map the world correctly. Our brain is made to map correctly So we're capable of understanding that, oh yeah, I just faked that tree. I erased that imaginarily. And that's all you're doing. You're seeing reality, the forest, and you're saying, I don't like these trees. And you're just erasing them because you don't like the reality. You're the religious fuck.
Of the mind, this is a... no, so what concretely exists is the human connectome of mind at any current point. And there is a correlation between the abstract existence here, what we might have, and the concrete existence.
Again, it's always concrete, okay? Your brain state when you're being tortured is a certain arrangement. When you're having a cupcake, it's a certain arrangement. Those arrangements are real things, and they have real differences. And the real difference is one is experienced as torture and one is experienced as a cupcake. It's a real difference. Not an insignificant difference, not a meaningless difference. It's a hugely meaningful difference. As meaningful as the difference between an electron and a proton.
But, I mean, relationships, again, this is an abstract idea. The relationship between A quantity and B quantity, yeah, they have a relationship, but it doesn't concretely exist. It only...
So again, he's saying again that events aren't concrete events, that they aren't real things that happen. They somehow don't mean anything, when of course they mean everything in a sense, because obviously there would be nothing to talk about if everything just stood still and never interacted. So interaction is a huge, significant portion of describing this reality. If you're going to describe reality and say, I'm going to exclude interaction from the map. The map doesn't have any, understanding the truth of it doesn't have anything to do with interactions. I mean, it's just too retarded for words, right? I can't put a word like, well, that's retarded on there, right? That's Asperger's times the speed of light squared.
Was when we've set ourselves the notion of reason. And
again, the notion of reason. It's not really a notion. It's just fundamental. Like reasoning is collecting the facts and being consistent to them. Not pretending I can throw this fact out and I'll throw this fact out and I'll throw this one out arbitrarily. And well, especially throw out the ones that point out that I have BO and the ones that say things I don't like to hear. I mean, this is just such horse shit.
It exists not concretely, but it exists abstractly for every other sentient or intelligent being that decides to follow the insights of self-evident necessities of reason, identity.
The necessities are that you bang into trees. The necessity of accurately modeling our world is self-evident in the sense that you can see that nothing could function properly, not even a vending machine, if it wasn't programmed properly to properly interact with the world. If the vending machine threw knives at people who put their money in to get a Coke, well, nobody would use that vending machine.
Non-contradiction. So, if you like that, a circle is the idea of a circle is a truth.
Well, I suppose they could ask the wife to go get him a Coke. So that would make life a little easier, right? No divorce courts or anything. Oh, I had no idea that machine was broken.
The Martian, who realizes the value of playing the reason game, constraining his thoughts to those that are amenable to reason. So that's our idea.
So again, more just talk. The word reason doesn't mean anything outside the context of you have to have facts to reason with. And I would plainly argue to your fact base is insanely bent and distorted, because you are pretending a whole class of things that are happening, that are real. It's real that this thing moved from here to here to here to here. It's a real thing that happened. History is real. Events are real. Your map is shit.
Yeah, I don't think properties, there's any evidence to show that properties are concrete in the sense that...
Again, so it's just saying that means your ability to feel isn't concrete. It has no meaning, it's not real, it's just fake, it's a teddy bear illusion. It's no difference. No real difference He's saying this overtly. No real difference between a nail in your eye and a cupcake. No real difference.
Intrinsic. All properties then are emergent. That is, the property label is
again, and it's emergent out of real events. It's emergent out of the real fact that there's a thing called time. The universe doesn't happen instantaneously, so it's happening over a period of time, and it is happening. The events, the interactions are real. The collisions are real. The forces pushing is real. All of this stuff is real stuff, and it's really doing stuff.
Referencing something in terms of it's not got a good handle on. That there are more fundamental terms of behaviour behind every property in concrete existence.
Some more nonsense. Again, the properties are not necessarily have to be expressed as a behavior. So we can have physical attributes. It doesn't mean you have a penis doesn't mean you're a rapist. I mean, there's no A forces you to be B.
Of course, allowed that there are mathematical properties which are different because those properties are as stated or as defined. Anyway, that's this morning's rumble.
Yeah, that's all it was. It's ramble. It's just spewing bullshit, crap. Again, you're philosophically infantile. Baby talk. So anyway, enough of that shit. Oh, God. So, as usual, if you haven't heard me say so, I really do hate this fucking planet. Just covered with fucking imbeciles. Covered. Ugh.